Now will we see the magic?
All right, where's Murray? Okay, who is it?
This is Jesus, kid.
Know then that it is the year 10,191.
Yes, we are bored. We're all bored now.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Hello, and welcome to Mary vs. the Movies with your host, Mary Jones.
And Dennis Lang.
And we finally got a copy of Misery.
Yay.
You may have heard us ranting. I swear to God, it's been like a month now of complaints. We were going to watch Misery. Warner Brothers pulled Misery from Max streaming. So that we just, we couldn't watch it. And then it was like, oh, it's going to cost us $15 to rent it. And I'm just like, I'm not renting that. Anyway, you've heard the rant. Luckily, a listener of the show went and provided us with a copy of the film.
Thank you. You know who you are.
You know who you are. So thank you very much for that. And so now we're going to watch it. And has some of my passion, fallen? Maybe. Because here's the thing. Originally, we were going to watch this in a movie theater.
Yeah.
If you remember, at the end of December, we were going to go to a movie theater. They were showing this at the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville. I was very excited. That's the movie theater where they filmed The Blob and all that. So I was like, yeah, this is going to be cool. We'll go do that, the Christmas week. It'd be a lot of fun. And of course, we were sick, so we couldn't go at all. So then we were going to just watch it on.
We were like, maybe we'll be better by then.
We were not even close.
That was the first quarter of our sickness.
Oh my God, it was awful. I still don't understand how we never tested positive for COVID.
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of stuff flying around now.
That's true, unfortunately. So anyway, we couldn't go to the movie theater, so we were going to watch it at home. Couldn't watch it at home. And so, thankfully, we have been provided with a copy of the film. Now, do I know what this movie is? Sure.
Yeah.
We're watching it because it's famous. I feel like Kathy Bates got an Oscar, or at least an Oscar nomination for this. It's based on a Stephen King book. Probably.
Book.
It is a book. All right. I didn't know if it was a book or a short story. James Caan is a writer who I guess has a car accident. Kathy Bates rescues him. I think it's something like she doesn't like the way he ended his last book, or she wants him to write a book for her, or
Stephen King's working through some things.
Yeah. Well, it's also like, hey man, fandom is a little creepy.
Yeah.
And you got, you people need to chill out.
This is like 1989 when he wrote, or 88 or something.
Something like that, yeah. And it's gotten so much worse.
Yeah, I know. It's like, didn't get any better.
Oh my God, no. People are even more insane now about their fandoms. Like, you have people like just threatening death on writers for what, because you didn't ship the right people.
People threaten death for anything these days.
That's true. And the thing is, that's probably also true back then. It's just that it wasn't as in your face because we didn't have the internet. I mean, you still had weirdos who would stalk celebrities and stuff back then, obviously. But yeah, there is something about, so I mean, I guess at the heart of this is a writer saying, yeah, it's cool that you're a fan, but don't connect with the work that deeply, please. Don't try to kill me because you don't like what I did with the characters in a book. So that's my impression of what this movie is about. And so she has him like stuck in that house while he's supposed to be recuperating, and instead is like breaking his legs and stuff because he's not writing the way she likes.
So I think this is actually the story of how The Shining was made. and he feels that Stanley Kubrick took his idea and broke its feet.
Oh, you know what? He needs to get over that. Look, I never read The Shining, but I have seen the film. The film's amazing. You've got Stanley Kubrick.
Now, have you seen Twitter has been talking about like quotes about each other?
I know that like Stephen King's like, but what if it's an evil hotel? And I'm like, that's not interesting.
Yeah, he didn't get the whole evil of places thing.
It's like, but that's look. I mean, I'm somebody who likes things like folk horror, which is about the evil of specific places. Like it's not that I don't connect with that, but like what Kubrick did is much more interesting, or it's just a different story, right? it's okay to have two completely different stories.
And the thing is, different writers are good at different things.
Yeah.
Some are good at plotting, some are good at characters, some are good at dialogue.
Yeah.
And
what's Stephen King good at?
I think plot.
Sure. Okay.
Maybe not
ending. No, he's not good at ending.
I think Kubrick said he was good at invention or something.
Okay.
But not a good writer.
Yeah. So we're watching Misery, right?
Yeah.
This is a Rob Reiner film.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Reiner, he started off strong. Speaking of people who start off strong and then have not ended well, although I liked his documentary on Albert Brooks.
I haven't seen it.
It's on HBO Max, whatever you want to call it, and it's it's just like an overview of Albert Brooks's career. And it's not objective. It's not meant to be objective. And if you are familiar with Brooks's work, it's fun to watch and be like, yeah, that I remember how good that was. I
just feel like with both him and Richie Cunningham, Ron Howard,
yeah,
like they both seemed like they had something to prove at first.
Yeah,
for like a bunch of movies, and then they just kind of go on.
And
I don't know.
Well, and they both kind of fall off at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're pretty good through the mid 90s.
Yeah.
And then it's been terrible ever since. I can't think of like a Ron Howard film that I've liked in a very since Apollo 13.
Like that whole like highlighting letters thing they did with A Beautiful Mind.
Hate
and
it.
With that horrible.
So Dark, the Caan of Man.
God.
Yeah. Oh God, what is it called? The Da Vinci Code. Oh my God, I hate the Da Vinci Code
so much. We saw that in the
much.
theater.
We did. Hey, not to be fair, we went to the Dollar Theater.
Yeah.
The one that I talked about in their episode.
It was being
of Matinee.
protested. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was actually kind of fun. Walking through okay, it's Boyertown. Yeah, you're gonna have weirdos protesting things, obviously, and so yeah. No, so Rob Reiner. I mean, he does start off strong. I mean, like his first directorial, feature is Spinal Tap.
Yeah, great.
Spinal Tap. It's one of the greatest comedies ever made. It's one of the first DVDs I ever bought. I love Spinal Tap.
Yep.
And I mean, look, that's not all him, obviously. It's, all the improv with Christopher Guest and Michael McKean and Harry Shearer and all the other people there with him. But he was the director and he's great in it, actually. And he is so fun playing off of them. And I love Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
And after that, now he made a movie called The Sure Thing, which we're actually going to cover for this because I've never seen it. That's been recommended to us. I don't really know anything about it except I think it stars John Cusack, and I don't know. But it's supposed to be very good. And then he makes Stand By Me or The Princess Bride? Which one comes first? I guess the Princess Bride comes next. I love The Princess Bride. I've seen The Princess Bride so many times. I saw that as a kid and I fell in love with it and I've loved it ever since. And I know some people think it's overrated. I don't care. To me, it's a perfect movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect film. I love everything about it. I grew up on swashbuckler movies and whatnot, so I know what it's doing, but it's beautiful. I love that movie. All right. And then, yes, Stand By Me, his first Stephen King adaptation. Great movie.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who doesn't like Stand By Me. It's a shame we can't cover it for the show. But no, Stand By Me is great. And now, did he direct When Harry Met Sally?
I think so.
Another great movie.
Yeah.
Another great movie. And then I guess it's Misery. And then what?
What's the Burning...
No. It's oh God, what's that movie that's Jack Nicholson yelling at Tom Cruise?
A Few Good Men?
Few Good Men. He did A Few Good Men.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's the script is Aaron Sorkin, so but yeah, I know. My mother loves Aaron Sorkin. Don't even get me started. So he does A Few Good Men. It's a very big deal. And he does The American President?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like kind of his last very popular film. And so he does Misery, big deal. And I don't know. And then I guess he does North. And North is sort of like slamming into a brick wall. I've never seen the movie North. I kind of want to see it because it's famously terrible.
So maybe it's really good.
No. I remember... so Roger Ebert, famously, his review is just, I hated this movie. That's a perfect... Yeah, like, you know what? Yes, exactly. So for that reason alone, I want to see it. So yeah, Rob Reiner. I don't know, man. He started off strong and has not been strong since. I don't know. Sometimes people just lose it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of excited insofar as in the time period in which he made this, he was making other films that I really enjoy.
Love Triangle?
No, I don't think there's going to be more than 2 people in this movie.
Do you think one or both die?
I bet she dies and he survives. James Caan character is a stand-in for Stephen King. I gotta assume that he somehow escapes and outlives Kathy Bates.
Okay. I don't think I've seen this. I read it.
Okay.
So I don't know if it goes far from the book. I just remember the book being kind of like a comeback of sorts for him. Like he'd done like Tommyknockers, and this was high school for me. And so like I just remember when I read it, I was like, oh wow, that was just a plain old good book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it one of his shorter books?
I guess. Yeah. Yeah. It's not like, the 1,000-page thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because sometimes, you'd think he's getting paid by the word like Charles Dickens or something. Because some of those books are real long. And others, on the other hand, are nice and like Carrie is not a long book. The Gunslinger is not a long book, So and his short stories are probably his best work.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, are we ready to go and watch Misery?
Yeah, sure, why not?
If I had a hammer, I'd a hammer in the morning, I'd a hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd a hammer out danger, I'd a hammer out a warning, I'd a hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this.
Cell phones would have fixed a lot of this. Also,
maybe that's why they just don't do cell phones these days in films.
Maybe this is why everything's a period piece now.
Yeah.
Because computers have kind of ruined suspense.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but look, that's it. Yes, your phone could die at some point. I seem to remember you constantly not, charging your phone and having it. Yeah.
What?
So no.
I've got 20%, I think.
Wow, that's a lot for you.
It's a lot for me.
So yeah, it is funny watching this and just being like, yeah, if he just, Although I will say, so this is set in Colorado,
Yep.
up in the mountains, and there's not a lot of reception there.
That's true.
To be honest.
Yeah.
No, he kind of might be screwed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I take that back. But it was my first thought. My other thought was, part of the plot is, him writing these manuscripts and then burning them, being forced to burn in one case and burning it in revenge in another. And I don't know, man. Right nowadays, you back everything up on Google Drive or whatever kind of cloud storage you want to use, just in case. Like I keep when I write something, I have a copy on my computer and I've got a copy somewhere on the cloud, and because I believe in having multiple backups to everything.
But if you have a hard copy, then it's yours.
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, look, no, it burns. 2,000 years of manuscripts burning. I'm pretty sure that's not how that works. Don't look at me like that.
I'm just saying, that's just his thing. That's the Paul Sheldon way.
Well, apparently, yeah, that is something in the book. Doesn't actually burn
right,
the manuscript at the end. He fakes it because Stephen King can't stand the idea of actually destroying any of his own work. Just look at the fact that he, re-released The Stand with an extra 400 pages.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it was not a bad 400 pages, but come on, man.
I saw an interview with him and George R.R. Martin talking about their working process, and Stephen was like, I forget, something like he writes like 30,000 words a week or a day or maybe a month, but he has it like worked out, so he's like working like a set amount each day, and George R.R. Martin's like, what?
How long has he been sitting on the winds of winter?
He's like, don't you ever just sit at the typewriter and not do anything?
Right? He's too busy wearing his little train conductor
Exactly.
hat. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, look, not everything Stephen King writes is good, but at least he's producing something.
You know, it's a quantity over quality.
Yeah, it really
Just
is.
every now and then he hits a home run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a much better film than I was expecting, and I think that has more to do with me looking backwards at where Reiner's career went than where it was at the time.
Yeah.
Because this was great, and the thing is, so Rob Reiner directed it. William Goldman wrote the screenplay from King's book. William Goldman, if you for those who don't know, he wrote The Princess Bride, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid,
And a lot of
All the President's Men, Marathon Man, which we're going to cover at some point. Although I think that's like the late 70s, but I still kind of want to do that one.
You're into torture, aren't you?
I'm not into torture. But it can be an effective tool.
Okay.
No, I don't mean it that way. Hold on.
Sure.
No. I don't mean it in a war crime sense. I mean in a literary sense.
This episode of Mary vs. the Movies was later used as evidence.
Kind of also a famous script doctor. And
There's probably a lot he's not credited for.
Like Good Will Hunting?
Yeah.
That is sort of the rumor. To be fair, I think it's the rumor started by him. So, but it's a frequently funny script. He knows when to kind of break the tension by being a little absurd.
Yeah.
And also you have there is more than two characters, I should say, in this film. Originally I was like, who else is in this? So you've got, what's his name? Richard Farnsworth as Buster, the sheriff. Frances Sternhagen as his wife
/ deputy.
Mm-hmm. They're fun. They're basically like kind of a crotchety old couple who, they're kind of like, I would love to age into them, provided you don't get blown away by a shotgun.
They're a lot like the couple in Fargo, the cop couple.
Frances McDormand and the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
God, I can't think of the actor's name.
Yeah.
But you know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I like them a lot. It's unfortunately, he gets Scatmanned.
Yeah.
Towards the end, I knew that was going to happen too, because you spend like half the film kind of watching him try to figure out exactly how did Paul disappear. He has a feeling like he's not dead, or something has happened to him if he is dead. So he spends several weeks trying to figure out what happened to the guy. Reading his novels and just searching around, and he finally does figure out, goes to the house and everything, and as soon as he goes to the house, I'm just like, oh yeah, he's gone. Forget it. You've made me be emotionally invested in a guy who's going to die,
and I
knew that was coming.
I like that he dodges the cocoa
that
was surely poisoned or something.
This is such a nicely written story. Like I do. That's a great example of where the script is really smart. He dodges one way that you think she's going to kill him, and instead it's a completely different and much more over the top way.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things in here where it's a lot of misdirection. You think you're going to be able to do this one thing, and of course it all falls apart. And she's always like one step ahead of people. In fact, I was thinking about that, like. She knows that Paul steals things around the house. She knows about like the missing knife and everything. Later in the film, he tries to poison her with the pills that she's been giving him. I realize I'm jumping ahead, but like, and then she spills the wine, and I just kept thinking, does she know already?
Right.
Like, was that intentional? And because there's other scenes where people keep thinking they're outsmarting her, and she, is one step ahead of them. It didn't occur to me until just now. Oh, I bet that was another thing.
Yeah.
James Caan plays Paul Sheldon, writes romance novels. It's the kind of stuff that you buy at the grocery store.
Yeah.
My mom has gotten me into watching Paul Dark. So it's like Paul Dark, but like smuttier probably.
From the little I've seen of Paul Dark, it feels like a Cornish Spanish soap opera.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems about right.
Like, you know, it has all the guys are like, you know, just.
I mean, look, it's like I said, it's the kind of romance novels you buy at the grocery store in the 1980s. You know, nowadays, I guess it's more like soldiers and cowboys and stuff. But back then,
And at one point, dogs.
yeah, that's true. Yes, was it Must Love, Pause? No, that's what was it called? Pause for Love.
Pause for Love.
Pause for Love. Yes, that's the one that you picked up at the grocery store.
So when we first moved to Lansdale, we went to Reiner's to shop. It's kind of the local.
It's a local grocery chain out of Reading, Pennsylvania.
And we passed by like the book thing.
They have a book rack.
We passed by the book rack. And where there would normally be like a smutty novel like this or something.
A bodice ripper, yeah.
It had nothing but these Amish love stories.
Yeah.
Like The Girl Who Waited. And I was like fascinated. I was like, and I always wanted to read one. And then I guess it was the first COVID shot or something. I was driving around. I was like, I'm going to get one of those things. I stopped by and they weren't selling them anymore, but they were selling these like cowboy ones, and then but also these dog ones.
Yeah.
And it's like all like the same plot.
And when you say dog ones, it's not romances between dogs.
No.
No.
It's a romance between a dog owner, or no, it's a romance between like a buff guy who's like either a Marine or a firefighter or a cop.
Yeah.
And a dog trainer lady.
Right.
And there's a series of like 4 of them in this one series, and I think there's others, and it's amazing.
See, the thing is, like, I've never read much in the way of romance. I don't know why. I never, you know, I also I can't tell you, because it's not like I've not read any romances. I mean, I've read Jane Eyre, and I've read, you know, Pride and Prejudice, but, you know, obviously I read those all with the veneer of, well, I was an English major, of course I'm going to read that, which is obnoxious on my part, but like, I don't have anything against romance novels. I just never got into them.
Like I don't read them normally, but
Well, you read Twilight.
The whole thing with Twilight is that I was working. I had this really boring job, and I had been doing the same job for centuries. And finally, like, we started getting like these like audio books.
Yeah.
People would kind of trade, like, oh, like I have these audio. So like at first, I just listened to like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and then I listened to like Harry Potter like 70 times or something. I just didn't have anything else to listen to, and I didn't really go to the library at the time. Later I did, but yeah. So at one point someone had Twilight. I was like, yeah, whatever. And so I listened to it, and I decided to listen to the entire thing. The first one is, to me, it's exactly the same as 16 Candles. And maybe we'll talk about that when we do 16 Candles.
Okay, yeah, I think we'll save that for then.
But it has all the same strengths and problems of 16 Candles, I think. And there's 2 more that are like pointless. Like it's just spinning wheels. And then the last one is just crazy. It's just like, what? Where did this go?
So Paul writes these romance novels, and he wants to get out of that. His latest novel is coming out, and it's the final book in a series about a woman named Misery. And we don't know that when the film starts. It's something that, you know, becomes clear later on that, you know, this is the end. He kills off Misery in this last book. And so when we meet him, he's writing whatever his follow-up is going to be. It's in a completely different type of novel. It's not a old-fashioned romance or anything like that.
There's also a lot of bad words in it.
Yeah, apparently there's a lot of swearing. Which, you know, is Stephen King. So we first meet him, and he is finishing up his new novel, and he has this little ritual of 1 cigarette and a glass of champagne, and he, you know, puts the manuscript into his little satchel, gets into his was it a Mustang? 65 Mustang, and drives away from, you know, the little cabin that he had rented in the mountains, and is driving, I guess, to get somehow back to Denver to take a flight back to New York. Because then we have like a flashback to him in his agent's office, and there we get all of a sudden Lauren Bacall, of all people. Yeah. She kind of bookends the film, I guess, you know, because she comes back at the end. Because spoiler alert, Paul does survive this barely.
Yeah.
But he does survive.
He actually makes out better than he does in the book.
Oh, real? Oh, that's true. Yeah. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's driving through a mountain pass because it's, Colorado and it's all mountain passes. It's funny, like I didn't know at the beginning of the film that this was going to be set in Colorado, but I immediately knew it was Colorado just by looking at it because we've been there, and
Heck, that could have been May.
I was thinking that too because it's sort of like it's winter and it's cold and it's snowing and I'm like I've been there in the middle of May and it looks like this. So I don't know what time of year this actually is. So he has a car accident, blizzard conditions and whatnot. He goes off the road. I assume this is actually an accident, right? Because I don't see anything where this was planned by Annie.
Right.
I don't know that that's a rumor or anything.
Yeah, like you don't see anything hit the car. He just loses. He's on the slippery road. Yeah.
I have to laugh though as he's driving. Like this is the most boomer thing I've ever seen. Like this is even more boomer than anything in The Big Chill because he's driving. Listening to the song "Shotgun" in a '65 Mustang. And I'm like, oh man, I know I tweeted at some point, is Stephen King the most boomer writer ever? And the answer is yes. And Rob Reiner, he might be one of the most boomer filmmakers ever. I'm not saying not necessarily because I don't know, maybe Spielberg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Actually, that's a pretty good question. Who is the most boomer director? Yeah. I don't know either. Anyway, we don't have an answer.
Yeah.
So he has the accident, and it's a pretty good car accident, actually.
Yeah.
The cinematographer, by the way, for the film is Barry Sonnenfeld, and he does a great job. I think it's a really good-looking movie. I like the way a lot of things are framed in this.
He does that one great pan where he's showing Farnsworth, the cop, as they're looking at the crash site. And it just pans over, and then suddenly you're actually on the car.
Yeah.
Looking at Annie.
Yeah, it's a wonderful
by.
shift of perspective that he does. It's a really awesome shot. I love that.
By the way, when we saw this crash, I was immediately like, oh, this is from Poker Face.
Yeah, it's true.
And there's an episode of Poker Face where she crashes and in the snow in Colorado, I think.
Yeah.
And it looked exactly the same. I'm sure that was intentional.
I'm positive it was, yeah. But so he's rescued by Annie Wilkes, played by Kathy Bates. She does, I guess, save his life. But now, apparently she is a metaphor for Stephen King's own drug addictions and alcoholism and whatnot, much like a lot of his writing, to be honest. This is one of King's more grounded stories. There's nothing supernatural. It's not horror in that sense. It's a suspense film.
Yeah.
It's a suspense story, but, in a way, if there is anything fantastical about it, it's just that it would of course be this psychopath who is his number one fan who finds him and rescues him. So I'm fine with that sort of suspension of disbelief because it's Stephen King. Who cares? Otherwise you don't have a story. The only reason I even say any of that is because normally he has something supernatural, he has something otherworldly going on. And that's not the case here. This is a surprisingly grounded story. His stuff isn't always that, obviously. I mentioned Stand By Me. There's nothing there. I don't think there's anything supernatural in The Shawshank Redemption, right? It's not like that's always the case, but yeah. Anyway, I think the only reason I bring it up is because it's Colorado, and so I kept thinking about The Shining as I was watching this.
Yeah, well, like seeing him drive down that road,
it's,
it seems like it's evoking that shot.
Absolutely.
In the movie, so.
And look, Rob Reiner is not Stanley Kubrick.
No.
That's fine. It's interesting how her character is unraveled. It doesn't take too long to, you figure out pretty quickly, oh, she's nuts.
Yeah.
The movie takes its time to show you how nuts she is because, you could watch the first hour or so of this and just be like, oh, she's a psychotic fan.
Yeah.
And that's, not unfamiliar territory. I mean, thankfully not for us. Any of our fans that we've met have been really nice, normal people. So
that we know of.
Well, as far as we know, that's true. I mean, I don't know, but no, they've all been really nice people. But yeah, so it starts off with, she's so excited. She's going to get his latest book and she's finding ways to keep him from leaving. So it's like, well, you've broken your legs, but it's okay. I'm a nurse and I will heal you. And she is actually a nurse. as soon as the roads are clear, I'll take you to the hospital. And she keeps coming up with excuses and all that stuff. And so, it's funny how, like, for a good portion of this film, you just think, like, oh, she's an obsessed fan who is, like, just going to keep him there.
What I liked is that you knew the hammer scene was coming.
Well, yeah, because it was there in pop culture.
It's there in pop culture, but it still works even when you know it's coming.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it almost makes it, like, scarier. Mm-hmm. Like we've gotten this far and there's no hammer scene.
That's the thing. It's a good suspense film in that I knew that was coming, and yet everything else, as it's ratcheting up, you still kind of have that sense of dread watching it.
Well, what I think works is her. Like,
yeah.
She's so believable and yet compelling, and I don't know, there's just so many layers to her character.
Yeah. And even when, about halfway through this, she's already been holding him captive, all sorts of personal violations. I mean, it seems funny to mention that, given he is a captive, but like she won't leave the room when he's trying to pee into a jug and stuff like that. Yeah. And she's drugging him with it's an opiate. I think they call it Norville in this, and it's supposed to be a stand-in for, like, IMDb said codeine, but it's it may as well be Percocet or something.
But it also sounds like novel, so.
Oh God, it does, doesn't it? Yeah. Jesus Christ. Okay, script.
Yeah.
Fine.
But I think it's from the book too. So.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that was a Stephen King original and not William Goldman. Okay. Her madness is, on the one hand, for half the film, it's sort of a recognizable, and like you say, like there's something. She's a very disturbing character from jump, because she has that kind of weird sweetness that adults shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. That's really off-putting.
Yeah.
And it's a little hard to explain, but there's just something where, she's very conservative, and I don't mean it in a political sense, but conservative in her mannerisms of she refuses to ever swear.
They're the type of person I feel like everyone's worked with at some point.
Yes.
Someone that you worked with that you're like, I don't want to know what they do when they go home.
Right, because there's something feels very off.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's...
I wonder if people have said that about me, though.
Well... Yeah, it's funny because it's like, I don't think people need to swear in order to be an adult because, I mean, I rarely swear on this show. I swear in real life, but who cares?
What?
Because it feels like a performance, I think is what it is. It doesn't, there's something about it that there are some people where it does not feel like a natural choice. It feels like they are doing that because they feel like there is a reason they have to act that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that because it feels artificial, it feels off-putting. So that when, you are a person living, at that time it would be into the late 80s, and your whole house has this strange Victorian feel. I can't quite put my finger on how to explain what it is about that type of person. And I've been around, like you said, we've worked with people like that where you're just like, there's something off about this person.
And she's trying to be so sweet, and then she just suddenly drops a racist term that one time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's because there's like this level of sweetness the whole time, but then that there's something else going on, and that's what's off-putting. Yeah. Right? And that's why you can't trust, like there's something not genuine in the sweetness. Mm-hmm. There's something very weird about it. Like you said, she drops like some sort of, like, I forget what the term she used now is, but it is sort of, it takes you back for a second, like, what did she just say?
Yeah.
And again, that's a Stephen King special, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So she's already off-putting, and the fact that she's this obsessive fan who, knows everything about the author and, is, keeping him hostage, like that stuff's already off-putting. And but you've kind of know that type of person, right?
Yeah.
I do like that the movie then gives it this extra twist of, it turns out she's also like one of those killer nurses who, murders her patients, apparently. Yeah. And also possibly her husband, and maybe somebody she went to school with.
I think her father?
Was that her No, it was... that was sort of... I wasn't sure what was going on there. So, because she talked about her husband leaving her, and her last name is Wilkes. And so I just assumed that the person in the newspaper clipping... that probably was supposed to be her father and not her husband. You know what? You're right. But the point is, she's killed. She's killed plenty of people.
Yeah.
She's killed babies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so she's actually kind of inspired by a real person who may have killed up to 60 children under her care. You know, these people do exist. It's terrifying. So she's one of those people. So like that's also a real thing. So you combine like the creepy obsessive fan with a murdering nurse. It's an amazing character.
But I didn't see how she got off from that. Like, was it? I don't know.
Maybe the book explains it, but
Yeah.
you know, how it is. Like, I don't think every murder that was committed, like they pinned on her.
Yeah.
And that whatever deaths occurred under her at the hospital, I think it sounds like she was charged with some of them, but maybe, I don't know, like if she did time or if it was like considered manslaughter. Like the film doesn't get into that.
Yeah.
And the film doesn't have to get into that.
No.
I don't need to know her actual legal background because here's the thing. It's fiction.
What?
And I like that the film says it without quite saying it. Like, you know, this is fiction. You don't have to get that nitty gritty into, is this realistic enough, or does this happen, or should this have happened? You know, there's some point where she's upset about something in a book that he writes, and you kind of get the feeling that he's saying, oh, look, it's not real. I mean, in part just because he kills off this character, and she's so upset and so angry about it. And, you know, you get the sense of like, but it's not real. Lady, it's a story. It's, you know, get over it. And so like, I don't care that she got out of prison for the murders if that's what makes this story work. I like it, you know.
I was just wondering.
Oh, no.
It was in the clippings I missed.
No. It wasn't anything like that. But like, it's just, I'm not saying you're saying that, but you know, I'm sure somebody would sit there and go, well, but how did she not be in prison this whole time? And it's just like, I don't care, because then you don't have a story. So
what I like about it is that it's really good at setting up just how trapped he is. All the doors are locked. She just seems to have thought of everything, you know.
I mean, look, I don't like relying on IMDb too much because I have no idea what their sources are. But so apparently, before they cast James Caan, Warren Beatty was interested in this, and according to the internet, I don't know. He and William Goldman and Stephen King, I think, played back and forth with like, okay, how do we kind of knock down escape routes and any like plot holes that like he could have gotten out by now. So the film as it sits is actually really good in keeping him confined. Yeah. You know, and the only one sort of weird thing is the phone. You know, that the phone, there's no phone inside of it. Yeah. She has ripped out the actual mechanism, and so there's a phone sitting there and there's nothing there. And so they just kind of chalk it up to, well, she's crazy. But that's like kind of the only thing where it's not even a hole, it's just a weird thing, and they just kind of, you know.
Which I like in that, like, most horror films, like, the thing that they're fighting is either supernatural or supernaturally strong or something like that. This film seems to go out of its way to just kind of just have reality work against this guy.
Well, you know, because this isn't a horror film. This is more like Hitchcock. Yeah. You know? And not just because you've got a guy who can't, you know, walk and he's stuck in a wheelchair. I mean, yes, obviously Rear Window comes to mind, not just because we just watched it, but there is something very much more aligned to Hitchcock in this than anything else. Oh, you know, and it's funny, there is some musical cues in this that actually reminded me a little bit of the score to Psycho. Specifically, you know, if you can remember the music when Janet Leigh is driving in the car, you know, that particular score to Psycho. I feel like they reuse something that sounds kind of like that in here. So, yeah. And I think Reiner, as far as I know, he was consciously trying to make something that felt like a Hitchcock film. And honestly, he succeeded. I like that their performances are very different. Caan, you said he's bottled rage the whole time. And he is. But it's also a really interesting physical performance. Just him crawling on the ground and trying to move his limbs. And, you know, I was really impressed actually with what he does in this.
And kind of vulnerable. Like he really looks scared a lot.
He looks terrified in this film, and it works really well. But also, there's something very naturalistic about the way he's acting versus what Kathy Bates is doing. And Kathy Bates, oh my God, she is incredible in this film.
Yeah.
I am not surprised she got the Oscar for this because she is a psychopath who is playing multiple levels of roles at any one time, where she's very sweet and she's a huge fan and she's also going to kill you, and you have a feeling like you never really get down to her core.
And the thing is, I think he assumes he knows her at times, and then something else will come out. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? Like when it rains.
Yeah.
Like that's a scarier person than anyone.
I think the rain scene is the closest we get to who she might actually be.
Yeah.
And it is terrifying because there's no weird affect. There's no sweetness. She's just angry and depressed.
Yeah.
And kind of hates him because she knows he doesn't want to be there. And there's something so... like her performance in it is just so, it's chilling, and yet it's like this one like kind of real moment, and that's even scarier.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, just going back to her confrontation with Buster.
Buster, we mentioned he's the sheriff, and he's on the hunt to try to find Paul. So he's reading the novels, and he comes up with this one phrase, something about, that's a higher law than man, and he will be the one who judges me, or something like that. And so he comes across in the book, and it kind of sticks with him. And then I think it sticks with him because he knows who Annie is. He knows that she, got out of jail. He remembered that she had said something. And so goes to the town library, and he's looking through the archives and finds actually the same story that she has a news clipping of at her own house of her getting released from jail or whatever, and saying this phrase that comes out of Paul's book. Buster goes to Annie's farm to confront her and hopefully find clues of Paul's disappearance. It's a bummer of a scene because he's so smart insofar as he's figured out what's going on.
Yeah.
And he knows not to take any food from her, but as he's leaving, he hears thumps coming from the basement where she has Paul locked away.
And then bam.
Blown away with a shotgun. It's a nice effect.
It's very like you said, Scatman.
Yeah.
It's like kind of the same part of the movie.
Yeah.
It has the same kind of effect. Like the whole time you think this guy's going to help, and he gets killed right away.
Yeah.
Or it gets killed.
And I do. You know what? I don't mind that this is obviously like a retread of that same sort of scene.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's funny to think of this movie, how much it does sort of refer back to The Shining.
Well, The Shining is so supernatural, and
Yeah.
this is not supernatural at all, and yet it has a lot of the same beats.
I don't feel cheated. Isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel cheated. It's like hearing variations on a theme, but they still feel like their own work.
But it also seems like Stephen King has this idea of Colorado as this place where lonely people go insane.
Which is funny because at the same time, like, I read The Stand, and Colorado is supposed to be the new Eden, and yet it isn't at the end of that book either, because everything's going to, anyway, I don't want to talk too much about The Stand, but then we have basically a big knockdown drag out between the two of them, and they fight. Well, I should have said, by now she's broken his leg. Right, we didn't even talk too much about that part.
Oh yeah, we skipped over
that because we mentioned it briefly, but can we talk for a second? Because to go back for a second, when she knows that he's been trying to get out, so she goes to just break his foot like permanently.
Mm-hmm.
She tells this story about how in the diamond mines, if they caught anybody stealing the diamonds, they would break their feet so that they couldn't run away but still work. And so she decides to do the same thing, and it's a hell of effect.
Yeah.
So what did they make it of? Gelatin and rubber or something?
The leg that she knocks? Yeah, but it is...
It's great because it's a very quick shot. We see we see the hammer bend the foot and ankle and break it, but it's a very quick scene, and then we don't see what happens to the other one. Nope. They smartly,
Well, they show just his reaction.
Yeah, it's all about Caan's reaction, and it's great. I mean, well, it's not great. It's terrible, but it's a very good performance.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very quick shot. But you do see it, and oh, it's gruesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I curled into a ball looking at that. But so yeah, after Buster's been blown away, he's like, okay, I'm going to finish the novel for you. Like he's doing anything he can to convince her that like, no, I love you and I'm going to stay and don't worry about it, and tricks her into coming back into the room, burns the book, and then they have a big fight.
Yep.
And it's a nice long, bloody fight.
She bought him like this big heavy typewriter, and he uses that to knock her on the head.
Eventually, though, I think he picks up like a big iron pig,
yeah, and
smashes it in her head, and that finally kills her. So yeah, it's a great fight. It's one of those things where you think she's dead, and then she leaps out at him again.
Wait until the dark style,
and then you flash forward to what did they say? 18 months later.
Mm-hmm.
And he's written a new novel, and he meets back up with Lauren Bacall in New York. He's still on a cane and everything. And the end of the film is him still haunted by what happened. He sees her face in other people. So that's the end of the film.
Yep.
Yeah, this was good.
It was.
I kind of wish we had gotten to see it in the theater, but it's not like you have to see it in the theater. It's still a good, it's a good movie.
Like, it has some good shots, but like it's not.
I mean, it's not Days of Heaven or anything.
No.
But it was really good. I don't know that you should treat it as like, comfort food television, but you know what? I could kind of understand if you did.
There's something about well-played psychopaths, like her, like what's his name in No Country for Old Men?
Anton Chigurh.
Yeah.
Javier Bardem.
It's just so captivating, like this kind of. They can act like a normal person, but you can tell like their head is in a different space. And,
yeah. One thing that kind of struck me, though, you don't like how somebody wrote, a book. You don't like how it ended. And, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I've run into that myself. And I often think to myself, okay, you don't like how something ended, or you don't want it to have ended, or whatever. I mean, this is where fan fiction comes in, man. Write your own story. There's no reason not to go and just write your own ending for things. And so, I'm watching this. I'm like, if, a normal person, the response should be, man, I love, this book series. I don't like how it ended. I'm going to write my own books. I'm going to write my own stories.
Or you can kidnap the author and have them do it.
It's funny. I'm trying to think, like, is there a series like where I don't like how something ended?
Like book-wise or anything?
Yeah, book-wise. I mean, anything-wise is true too,
Like, should we capture JJ and...
Oh, yeah. I'm still mad about Lost. Actually, I'm still mad about Star Wars. Actually, I'm still mad about, Star Trek. God, J.J. Abrams, I hate that guy. You know what? I can just pretend that Rise of Skywalker doesn't exist.
But Star Wars fans are so calm.
It's a little bit like God, I'm trying to think of what episode I was talking about. Oh, when we watch The Dead, and people are like, playing music for each other and performing and stuff. And it's kind of along the same lines of, there's nothing stopping you from writing. There's nothing stopping you from making your own thing. There's nothing stopping you from, rewriting the story and giving it your own spin. That's why fan fiction exists, and I'm glad fan fiction exists. It should exist.
Well, wasn't Twilight like a fiction?
No,
fan
you know what it was? 50 Shades of Grey
was a...
Exactly, yes. Look, do I want to read 50 Shades of Grey? Not really. That's not my thing. But I'm glad it exists because... that woman took Twilight and was like, no, this needs more, BDSM. I'm just going to write my own thing. Yes, lady, write your own thing.
And she didn't smash any legs to do it.
Exactly.
That we know of.
I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places.
So that was Misery, starring James Caan, Kathy Bates, Richard Farnsworth, Frances Sternhagen, and Lauren Bacall. Written by Stephen King from his novel, with the screenplay by William Goldman, and directed by Rob Reiner. All right, you can follow us on social media. We are Mary vs. Movies on pretty much all of the major platforms, other than Tumblr, where we're Mary versus the movies. So yeah, if you're looking for us on Instagram or Mastodon or Twitter or Blue Sky. It's always Mary vs. Movies. Let's see. We are on all of the major podcasting platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts where you can rate and review the show. We would really appreciate it if you did. We are on Stitcher. Yeah, is that a thing? No, that's not a thing anymore. That's right. Stitcher's gone. Spotify. That's right. We're on Spotify. We're on Overcast. We're on Google Play. All those things. We have a TikTok channel or whatever you call it, account. And we haven't uploaded anything for a little while because we've been very busy with work, but I think we'll start having cartoons on there again. Dennis animates these wonderful little clips from our show. And so, yeah, go over to TikTok where, again, we are Mary vs. Movies. We also upload the same ones over on Instagram. So, yeah, whichever platform you're on, you should be able to find the little movies that Dennis makes. And they are great. I love them so much. Let's see. We have a Patreon where you can help support the show. For $3 a month, you get to help pay for things like our server costs and our Zoom account and all that stuff. But also, more importantly, you get access to a whole second podcast we do called Hollywood Avalon, where we watch more movies of an Arthurian bent. So anything that's like King Arthur related, Holy Grail, all that type of stuff. We've been Lancelot. We've been watching anything from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade to the 1953 movie Knights of the Round Table to some old Bugs Bunny cartoons. We just did The Green Knight, the movie from 2021. 2021. Why did I phrase it that way? Anyway, yes. So, it's pretty much, if it's somehow King Arthur related, we will do it. And so that comes out once a month, and you can get access to that by joining the Patreon. So that is patreon.com/Mary vs. Movies. And and sometimes we also put out like bonus material in there as well. We just put out a Q&A that we did. People who are subscribed to the Patreon got to ask us some questions, and so we'll probably do another one of those sometime in the future. Next episode, I don't know yet. We had so much trouble getting this episode done that I haven't even planned for the next episode yet. So you've picked two movies.
I've picked two movies.
All right. What are they?
It is Liquid Sky or Tetsuo the Iron Man.
Tetsuo the Iron Man, is that the one where the dude has a screwdriver for... Okay.
Well, drill.
A drill. God. All right. Well, let's flip that coin. Is it Liquid Sky, which I don't know anything about, or Tetsuo the Iron Man?
Which is what?
Well, let's say heads is Tetsuo the Iron Man and Liquid Sky is tails.
All right, Tetsuo it is.
Oh, man. Really?
Yep.
Oh, boy. Okay,
Do you want to change your mind?
No. Look, it's got to happen. It's got to happen at some point. All right. Next episode is going to be Tetsuo the Iron Man.
Yay!
Well, until next time.
You see, it's that kind of sarcasm that's given our marriage real spice.